There is a slight lag, so I'm going to wait a moment here and say, hey, everybody, welcome to the Tribal Forum. It looks like, well, now I turned that down. I was sure of that. There we go. Just connecting myself to you by a secondary source so I can read your comments as I go along tonight. Tonight's stream has got to be one of the most important things that I've ever attempted to do on this channel. All right. First of all, it's kind of a part two to the stream that we started on Sunday. Of course, that stream was about rockers who stood up to the machine. So I've entitled this Rockers Who Have Stood Up to the Machine, Part Two. Uh, I want to go over some what some rockers have said about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I also, if it's even possible, and I'll go over that in a minute, go over another list of 27 rockers and what they have to say about using backing tracks. But before we get into all of that, we're going to start off with a lead story that is absolutely happening right now. Okay? Richard Miller is saying very dark screen, Kimberly. Is that intentional? Very dark? Yeah. Wow, it looks bright on my end, Richard. How am I looking to everybody else? Just brighten up just now. Okay, good, good. Well, we're all on track unless somebody else has something to say in regard to that. But thank you, Richard. It's always good. Let me know if my volume is as usual and everything. We don't want to go through an entire other stream where I'm not connected with a nice or at least a louder volume. Um, okay, so we're going to start off with a lead story that's happening now. All right, so there's kind of three parts. Brandon, thank you so much. And I want to get to this real quick here. And I will, brother, because you just started something that could turn this stream into something else. And I do want to go over a couple of things before we start off with this story. But this story is, and what I plan to cover throughout the rest of the stream has got to be a good 85% of, and probably through the course of this, with some of your comments and everything, we'll cover the other 15% of what I have covered in regard to rock news on my channel. Now, I don't consider myself a rock news channel. I think there are, let me see if I can tilt this down just a bit more. I think there are other channels that do that better and everything. I usually report on stories that have to do with either the benefit of rock and roll or the tearing down of the rock and roll. And unfortunately, these days we get a lot of stories that seems to be chipping away at the legacy of rock and roll. That's always been my opinion, and that's been a major portion of what I cover on the channel. Of course, I cover albums, I cover album reviews, stories about rock as well. But there is this other aspect of the channel that's kind of been at times a lone crusade, but a lot of you fine folks have let me know a whole lot about what you think, and it seems like I'm not such the lone voice anymore. All right, and I want to thank you all for all your input into the channel. I've grown. Maybe some of you have grown. And like I said, this channel always has an overall consensus. It's not what I say up here, it's in the comments and what I say up here. And then you can kind of get a reflection of what's going on here. Not everyone agrees with me. All right. On every aspect. Some people go, yeah, about 75% of what he says is cool. Some of you go, well, it's only about 30%, but the 30% I like. And for those of you who like only 30% of what I have to say, and you still stick around, oh man, you are rock stars. That's all I can say. You're open to dialogue. That's one thing that I think in this world these days is sadly missing. So, before I get into this first story, I do want to give a big shout out. First of all, where are you, Oberheim? Brandon just gave us an $8 super thanks. He says, grab some wooden nickels, stick records. I still say you watch the WF files. Take care, Michael and Kimberly. You hear that, darling? That's a cheers to us both. Thank you so much, Brandon. I appreciate your support. You know I do. And I wanted to handle a few shout outs for some fine folks on my very last stream or directly after, either on one of my videos or rewatching that stream, gave the channel super thanks. And I'm talking about Dave Sanchez, Brandon 1351, Brandon Brandon M the Kid, and Cynthia Marie came in there. Cynthia is a brand new tribal elder. I thank you so much, Cynthia, for your very nice super thanks. Michael Boswell and Just the Facts Man even tied you in a couple of more very nice super thanks. Now, while I'm talking about this, this is in connection to me being able to get to that third part and really covering the second part of what I want to cover tonight. If I can get two more, um, uh, super thanks, and it can be as little as $2, folks. All right, and I will agree to either continue this stream or close this stream after the first half and re-engage immediately after, or just continue. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling about that because I have got a ton of things to cover tonight. And I think some of what I may be covering tonight will be quite eye opening. All right. But a big shout out to all of you who support the channel. And of course, I'm going to tell you the majority of what this channel makes financially and keeps me going comes from you folks when you do that. All right. The commercials that are being run, they're less commercials and limited commercials. They're very short and everything. That may have a lot. I saw that. I just saw that. I'll get right to you, Richard. Thank you. I appreciate it, RW. Um, Another $5. We're one away. Up there it is. Oh, good Lord, Storm Cop, and he clobbers the channel. My goodness, with a $50 super thanks. Richard, your $5 super thanks is just as appreciated, brother. I was hopping mad over that. All right. So I certainly appreciate that. Helene, my goodness. Helene Spalding, one of my oldest viewers and supporters of this channel. She has done so much to help this channel grow. And you know, I love you, Helene. Kimberly says hi. She's always glad to see you in the comments. Matter of fact, she's got a whole bunch of friends in there. And by the way, darling, I appreciate your help being the head moderator tonight. If anybody from the panel is up here. I saw Dawson earlier. He asked to be, to go ahead and be made a moderator. And of course, I'm talking about the panel that regularly shows up at Royce's Let Your Being Be Known, and I'll make you a moderator as well. Now, moderators, I will reiterate this. And Helene is one of our moderators. Richard, are you a moderator yet? Let's see. I'm trying to see. Let's see right here. Okay. Oh, I see. I will have to do it on my regular screen. I'll get to that a little bit later. But a good way to get for me to make you a moderator is show up early. Okay. And if you show up early, like Dawson did, and I see that request, I'll badge you up. All right. You'll get your wrench. And all I can say to all of my moderators, I appreciate your support. And with great power comes great responsibility. So use it judiciously, right? Obvious, trolling or anything like that, then go get them. All right. And I appreciate your help. So, with that in mind, we are either going to go with a very extra long stream tonight. I usually stream about an hour. I don't care. On Sundays, I have to keep it to about an hour, right? But during the midweek, even my hour streams usually go over. I think one went about an hour and a half, the other hour 15, an hour and change. But today we will be going at least 2 hours, and I don't know if I'm going to block that off and start a new stream or what. It depends where my energy is, and all I can say to you, brothers and sisters, is you're going to be happy if you always were curious about just what the hell is going on with Ticketmaster. All right. I mean, really, you've heard me go over Ticketmaster, and I've gone over some various aspects about how they make their money and everything. And we're not going to concentrate on that except for as a side issue tonight as we concentrate on exactly how Ticketmaster and Live Nation as well make a buck. All right. And what I want to do is, first of all, now I don't care. This channel does not cover uh, political stuff. This isn't the thing for that. And I don't cover religious. As I've said before, philosophy, maybe it depends if it's in the context of what we're talking about as far as classic rock and roll. I've been known to contemplate my navel from time to time, but this first leadoff story is the story in which Kid Rock has President Trump signing. Actually, it's just an order to make sure all the laws that are already on the books are followed to the full extent of the law. Now, I don't care what you think about Trump. I don't care if you think he's the second coming or you think he is the Antichrist incarnate. That's not what this video is about. I want to focus on what Kid Rock had to say. I don't care what Trump has to say on this channel. All right. In my personal life, I have my own ideas and everything. I like to keep that to myself. And that's the only reason I even hesitated to cover uh, this subject, especially live. All right. Um, I don't care what side of the political aisle you are on. And while I like to stay away from politics in Washington as much as I can, I do believe we are at a point, and I think I'm not surprising any of my longtime viewers when I say this, that some sort of legislation has to be passed to get these uh, monstrosity um, companies from controlling the world of concert going. And that's exactly what they do, folks. All right. So before I get into his, I want to go over anything that was said here. Helene just gave us a nice super thanks. Thank you so much. Storm Cobb goes, sorry I'm late. Brother, you can come in late like that. You really know how to make a late entrance. That's all I can say.
That he wants to make this a 24-hour stream.
Back in the day, brother. Back in the day, you couldn't have stopped me. Psychos Platters. Hey, look, it's good to see you, brother. I've been going over to his stream, making comments every once in a while. So it's good to see you on mine. My stream here is frozen, so I can't go up and down. So I'm going to re engage here. And it's because I have a few streams open here, folks. So or screens, I should say, and make sure there we go. All right, now I can flip you guys through as I try to get to you. Psycho says Ticket Bastard needs to be broken up. That's for sure. I agree. And we're going to talk about specifically why. Let's see. Um it's a monopoly, Richard Mueller says, that needs to be broken via legislation. Right. And I'm all for the least amount of rules as we can get by with. The more rules you get, the more money it takes to back up those rules. But I'm also not against needed programs, but I want all programs to show either a profit or direct results. That's kind of how I vote in general, right? Yeah, I vote my pocketbook, and many of us do, you know. But this uh, unholy alliance of Ticketmaster and Live Nation is wreaking havoc. Now let's get to what basically Kid Rock had to say here. He's asking that Trump sign an order that the existing laws actually get carried out. He gave us one example of the law being carried out, and it actually put a stop to bot sales. Right now, bot sales, no matter how you cut it, is scalping. I'll never say that that is okay. All right, that's scalping. That's some cretin in his mom's bedroom, you know, got the tech know-how, how to set that up and getting it going, and then the resale pattern goes in, and that's where Ticketmaster actually has a connection, believe it or not. So I'm against scalping. I was against scalping back in the day, right? I bought scalp tickets a couple of times, but as I got older, and my sense of well worth and my core set of values started kind of seeping in past my teenage years. I was against it. I always have been. But I've said on this channel many times, I'd rather deal with that guy in the raincoat. He's got his collar turned up. He can kind of tucks it, and you can't even see his mouth. He's, want tickets? Over here. You know, I'd rather deal with that guy on a street corner than have to deal with Ticketmaster. Now, Ticketmaster, I've only dealt with two or three times in the last 3 or 4 years. Okay. Two of those times I can remember is one time when we went to see Donovan at a theater. And then when we went to go see Greta Van Fleet in San Francisco. And I noticed at that time there were fees, and this was in connection for, first of all, I wanted my daughter to see Donovan. I turned her on to him years ago, and, at the time she was like 20, 21. And I wanted her to see him because she was a fan. And the second time is that her and I were both fans of Greta Van Fleet, and it was kind of a family outing. So I didn't look really close at what I was paying for, right? How many of you have not really looked close and you're going, damn, I mean, we see this with credit card charges everywhere in life. And, Ticketmaster is no different. They slapped this fee, they slapped that fee. Oh, what does this mean? Oh, what? But I thought the tickets, you're online, you get in, you can purchase. And, when you got online, the tickets were going for 125. Now they're going for 189, right? So it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And keep in mind that there is this connection between Ticketmaster and Live Nation. Live Nation ain't any more innocent than Ticketmaster is, and they're co owned together. All right. I think now Live Nation is the parent company, but it's almost like that doesn't even exist. It's like they work together in tandem. Either way you want to look at it. And on one side, the tickets are sold, promotion is sold, deals with bands are sold. There's Ticketmaster. On the other side is Live Nation, who owns most of the venues on planet Earth, right? And the deals they make with Ticketmaster. Ooh. All kinds of fees on both sides. And we're not going to talk too much about Live Nation tonight because just covering what Ticketmaster charges you and what the hidden cost is going to be quite a trip down the rabbit hole tonight, folks. All right? Because I smell bullshit all over the place, and the pasture ain't being cleaned by nobody. All right? It just gets right down to that. Okay, so before we get on to that, and I've got my screens up ready to go, I did want to mention one thing. Now, Kid Rock, I agree with him on this. You know, bot sales need to be stopped and everything. But he did say one thing. He says, I'm one of the most overpaid people in the world, right? And then he went on to say, and here's the part I disagreed with Kid Rock 100%. He then went on to say, I would love to lower my prices. Now, why can't he lower his prices? His excuse from that point on is see, if I lower my prices, it won't stop the bots from increasing the prices, and they'll still be paying the same high prices, which he is absolutely correct. But we're not talking about you fighting the bots, kid. We're talking about you being overpaid, and it doesn't matter if the same problem exists, you could still take a cut since you feel that you're overpaid, and then battle the dragon with the same power you have today. So that scene, I had to rewatch that clip about 8 times because, first of all, they were talking about stuff. If you notice, Kid Rock did not want to mention the word Ticketmaster. He had to be encouraged by the other guy in the video, right? And the other guy wasn't going to let it lie, even saying, well, maybe they're not as bad as we've heard, kind of joking to the audience. And then Kid Rock immediately makes a statement, a blanket statement about Ticketmaster, identifying them as uh, 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 what was his big? Oh, his biggest criticism of them was the fact that they're open to resale from bots, and that's where we're going to get into this. All right, so that's the opening kind of story, right? I 90% of what Kid Rock had to say, I agree with. I thought he was being a little disingenuous when he says he's the most over. That sounds good. That's a good soundbite, right? Sounds great. How humble. You know, uh, but then relating that he can't lower his prices because the shenanigans would continue doesn't that's going to continue either way. But since you've agreed, kid, that you're overpaid, take a pay cut and set an example at the very least. You're the one that says you want to be a hero to the average American family, the average American, and what they pay for concerts. All right, so in order to understand what we're talking about, you got to understand what you are buying or what you're buying into when you buy a ticket from Ticketmaster. So first of all, I went. Let's see. Let's make sure I'm in the right one here. Yep. Okay. So here is a detailed breakdown. Okay, of what is covered by Ticketmaster, what they offer, because we're going to go into each one of these tonight. What they offer, what they claim to offer, and how much they're making. All right. So, first of all, there is a service and processing fee. All right, now the service and processing fee, Ticketmaster charges fees on every ticket sold, which can include service fees, order processing fees, and delivery fees. Well, that was nice. What in the hell does that mean? Well, I had to do a little further research. And when you look into what service fees are, it says Ticketmaster service fees, which can be a significant portion of the total ticket. All right. So this is important, folks. Vary by event and are determined by agreements between Ticketmaster and the venue, typically ranging from 10 to 20% of the ticket's face value. And we all know that it's over that. We all know it's over that. I highly doubt, but let's go with just those set of statistics. Okay. Now, this is for service fees. Okay. Uh, the service fee is not a fixed percentage, but rather determined by the individual event and venue. Now, we have to switch our attention to Live Nation. Live Nation is the other half of this double headed monster that controls all the venues and thereby what? Events. All right. And we're going to talk about how these events can, what they can and cannot do, and the venues as well. All right. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What the fees cover are costs related to operating websites, customer service, payment processing, ticket distribution, and scanning systems. Now, think about this. Uh, Payment processing, ticket distributions are customer service, but they're going to charge you a little bit more for customer service and then two more areas of customer service. It all gets added up. All right. Venues use a portion. It says venues use a, get out of there now. Go away. I'll let you know when you're supposed to be up. It says venues use a portion of the service fee to cover costs associating with putting on live events. Okay. Now, what would that be? How about websites that are in the operating fees that they were talking about? Of course, that's part of it. Posters, things being put up. And who's paying for all of this? You are, me, we. Okay. And it says that this is interesting, and I'll have to read it to be fair minded. NPR reports that Live Nation and Ticketmaster have made a commitment to show fees upfront for events at more than 200 of their own venues. They got to own a couple of thousand. So, this is trickle, and this is what both of these companies do. They make these little tidbits of effort to look like they're doing something to combat low prices, getting the money to the artists. That's one of their big claims, and to stop ticket scalping, which is exactly the pot calling the kettle black. As I go along, I think you're going to agree. All right. So keep that in mind. All right. So that's for the service and processing fees. All right. And they split those two up. My God, sneaky ass bastards. Now, the secondary market fees, what they say about that, they also generate revenue from their own resale platform because that's exactly what Ticketmaster specifically is a retail platform. And it's a retail platform that has a monopoly, and we're going to talk about that. All right. See, this is stuff I can't cover in a 10 to 20 half hour video, folks. All right. This takes some digging, and that's what you and I are going to be doing tonight. And as soon as I get through this section, I'm going to take some time and respond to some of your comments. All right. But we're not even through a portion of this. All right. So, one of the things it says is Ticketmaster often becomes the exclusive ticket platform for venues and promoters. Gee, I wonder why. Live Nation, right? Their partner in crime, right? And the owner of them, if it really gets down to that. Okay, so then that gets back to when we get past that. So we've talked about service fees, processing fees, secondary market fees, right? From um, the resale platform. All right, they will. Let me get over here to that. Fans resell tickets. All right, Ticketmaster secondary market fees, which apply when fans resell tickets, can range from about 10 to 20% of the ticket's final selling price. So there's another 20% at least added. So now we're up to 40% added, right? We already talked about this. All right. And then it talks about here's more detailed breakdown. When tickets are offered for resale on Ticketmaster's marketplace, the price is determined by the seller. All right. Such as another fan or a season ticket holder. All right. So they can, it would be hard for Ticketmaster to stop people from getting a higher price for their tickets since Ticketmaster deals with dynamic pricing, which we're going to get to in just a minute. All right. So they add they add uh, more. Where was I? I had a moment, but I can feel it coming back, folks. Um, Marketplace, the ticket is determined by the seller, such as a fan or fee. Okay, fees are added after the ticket price is displayed and are split among the venue and other parties involved, including Ticketmaster. All the parties involved? I don't think so, Willis. All right. The artists don't get any of this resale money. All right. This all goes to Ticketmaster because they are, what do they call themselves? We are a ticket selling platform, an event to events kind of ticket selling platform. Ticketmaster states that at least in the case of concerts, the service generally receives one third of a stated service charge, with the rest going to the venue. Okay, so when are you a scalper and when are you not a scalper? That's a question you might want to ask. But we got to before I get into that because what do scalpers do? They buy tickets. They buy a bunch of tickets usually, but they buy tickets and they sell them for more. Here's fans buying tickets and selling them for more. And here's Ticketmaster setting a price and then bumping it up just at what is the difference between all three of these aspects, especially if the bots are getting in there to resell? Now, Ticketmaster claims they have a way to fight that. They're full of crap when they do say that. Now, let's get over to dynamic pricing. Ticketmaster uses dynamic pricing where ticket prices can fluctuate based on demand, allowing them to potentially increase ticket prices as demand rises. How many times have you been online waiting to get your chance? All of a sudden, your turn comes up. It was $110. Now it's 213. You know, and you have to make a snap decision because chances are it may even go up further. And so that is has been my experience with dynamic pricing. As far as what dynamic pricing really breaks down to, let's see. Yeah, It talks about real time adjustments. Prices are adjusted in real time, meaning they can change rapidly, as we've discussed, as demand shifts. Artists, sports teams, or promoters determine the initial face value of the tickets, which Ticketmaster does not keep any portion of. All right, so when Bruce Springsteen or Paul McCartney or the Guess Who in 2026 decide to tour, they decide how much they want to charge the audience based on how much they feel they can make, and they set the ticket prices accordingly. Okay, there it is. And Ticketmaster doesn't get any of that, right? They're not concerned with that because of the processing fees that we've talked about, right? All these hidden costs that they pass on to who? You. But keep in mind, all of these rock stars, all of these bands are agreeing, with the exception of very few of them. Of course, we talked about Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam fighting Ticketmaster back in the day, and they lost millions of dollars doing so. But I cheer them on for that, right? It was the right thing to do. Sometimes you just got to do what the right thing is, right? It's not always about making the money. So if you keep in mind, and I talked a little about this in my last stream, both Bruce Springsteen and Chipmunk Girl, what's her name? Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift. Um, they made these big statements against Ticketmaster only after they got into trouble, only after they were receiving torrents of responses from their fans did they come out of the woodwork. All right. And then Bruce even saying, yeah, I guess I did okay, this and that. At least he stood up to that portion, but it was too little, too late, and he didn't totally take 100% responsibility for what was going on. And Taylor Swift took as much responsibility as all her 12-year-old fans wanted her to. Okay, and their angry moms. It gets down to that. Now, here's the deal with dynamic pricing also: the artist and promoter control. Artists, sports teams, they all get that, right? Ticketmaster doesn't get that, but Ticketmaster's role is they integrate historical data and market dynamics into its pricing algorithms to determine price adjustments. Historical data. They must be talking about going back to, the Battle of Gettysburg, right? Somehow that has something to do with, no, the historical data they're talking about are you and me, folks. Our names, addresses, whatever information we give them, credit card numbers, everything else. All right. And they use that, they build it into the algorithm. We've talked about how sophisticated algorithms have gotten. Right here on YouTube, I've told you that it is possible to answer all of your questions with a robot who has learned to talk just like I talk right up here on stream. All right. So they put all of that information, and marketing dynamics is all their insider information that they have and that they spread to and gather their tendrils. And all of this makes a bigger to do of the whole thing because they have to. They don't get any of the artist cut. And guess what? In general, Ticketmaster makes way more than any individual artist has ever made from Ticketmaster. All right. They are they're raking in, they've got to be approaching to be $1 trillion company if they're not already. I don't know where or what they are, but they are a major money making hog of a company. All right. So now we get back to from it's not just dynamic pricing. It's also exclusive ticketing platform. See, we talked about that, and I said I wanted to wait. by being an exclusive ticketing platform for venues and promoters in exchange for a cut of service charges to where the venues and promoters. See, they're cutting into their business. So they're not just charging us, they're charging them, right? And allowing them target fans to boost sales. And they'll even, I would imagine some of that marketing platform stuff goes in on that. And uh, they then make very long contracts with these venues. Now we're talking about the venues that are controlled by Live Nation. So Ticketmaster is free and clear to make any freaking deal they want with these venues. And the venues really have no alternative because guess what? The venues give up. The venues give up the right to sell tickets from third party platforms. Ain't that exactly what a monopoly is? I can't believe that there hasn't been charges against this company, and we don't have a court case going on in the higher courts regarding this, because this certainly seems like a monopoly. It controls the venues, it controls the fans, it controls the ticket prices, and to a degree controls the artists themselves. Even poor Kid Rock would love to lower his prices, right? Okay. So I mean, the hidden aspects of this company is absolutely phenomenal. Now, when it was talking, I looked a little bit more into that. Um, let's see. Yeah, with this limited ticketing platform, also you get not only those exclusive contracts, but you get limited competition from the third party, things like that, dominant market position, impact on consumers, and on and on. Just kind of finishing up my notes on that. Then when you get to event promotion, audience insights, and campaign management. Now, all of that is under right here. Where was that? Um, the promoted events. Okay, good, good. And also, there is a verified fan program where you will get on and be notified ahead of time and have a shot to get the best seats and everything. And all you have to do is supply them with is your credit card number, your phone number, your name, and probably your address, I would imagine. It's been a while since I've dealt with them. And on top of that, the fans have to do this every single time that they buy tickets for every single event. So it's a lot of effort to get any kind of fan um, protection. And they say this is to combat. This is the one area that Ticketmaster says they're combating scalping by the bots. Because see, these guys over here who are willing to do this, and yeah, okay, they're still paying the processing fees, baby. They're not getting away from that. But at least they have a shot to get the tickets. But it doesn't stop the bots. It doesn't stop the increased resale, and that has on top of that. Then Ticketmaster, has this dynamic pricing on top. So they're going, oh, whoa, see how that works? And it's a wild ride, isn't it? And the only one that's getting a thrill on that ride is Ticketmaster and Live Nation and the artists who get to set whatever price they want. All right. So they have that. Let's make sure I've got all the rest of this. I want to check my last couple of streams or screens here. Yeah, they talk more about the fan process here, industry. Oh, okay. So here we go. Here's some of the things that they offer these venues. Audience insights based on, again, the information that we talked about. Global distributions. Yeah, of course. Because guess what? Live Nation is a global monstrosity owning most of the venues, especially rock venues for certain. Events promotion tools, which include services to promote your events, including advertising, email marketing, and social media engagement. All right. So all of that is what they offer these people. And guess what? They get back, they lock in this deal. Nobody else gets to do business. Nobody gets to compete against them at all. Industry leading analytics leverage data tools and service to make informed decisions about your marketing strategy. This is what they tell the venues. All right. This is their spiel to the venues to make the sugar go down because the venues really have no choice when they're kind of owned or there's financial fingerings into these venues by Live Nation. So they already are a day late and a dollar short in combating anything as a venue. And they're kind of force fed into this. And this is just sugar to make the medicine go down right here. This is I got a deal you can't refuse type of deal, right? Right out of Tales of the Mafia. This is how they do business. This is what Ticketmaster and Live Nation have presented to us, and we've been paying for it for absolute years, folks. All right, so that's part one. That's my presentation. I want to get to some of what you guys are saying here in the chats. Let's see. I'm going to start let's start about one third from the beginning here. They can take that $20 and shove it. Dawson. Hey, that wrench looks good on you, young man. Groovy Lisa, yes. Hi, Kimberly, she says. Caitlin, Stoddard, I know Ticketmaster tried to overcharge me for Rod Stewart. And it's all done. It's a fluid motion that's almost impossible to keep track on, except by Ticketmaster's own algorithms designed to make money, Caitlin. Absolutely. Dwayne Chamberlain. I see enough of Taylor every time I'm watching an NFL football game. She is popular, I know, but I'm not a fan. Neither am I. Neither am I. And let's keep it here. To what we're talking about here, I could go on an hour about Taylor Swift and a few of her best friends. Let's take a look at it here. Jorge Pita, never mind all the money they make on merch. Well, see, that's Jorge. That's kind of how. Yeah, and you've got two different places vying for the money of merch. You got the band, but now to make up for what the venues have to put up with, the venues are requiring a lot of the, or some, or a percentage of the merch money. And when they require that, then the Live Nation wants its cut too. All right. And so I'm dead set against merch being out of the hands of the artists themselves. That should be free and clear. That's like a tip, right? That's a tip. That's between you and the fan, and the venue can keep its sticky little fingers out of it, and so can Ticketmaster and Live Nation, in my opinion. Good point. I really like that comment. Let's see. Groovy says she hasn't bought in years, and it's been a few years for me. I haven't got back into watching or going and paying for a concert since the big shutdown. But I've been busy running this channel. I've come close twice to see. I almost saw what they were calling REO Speedwagon, and I almost went and saw Robert Plant. Okay, but I haven't made the jump yet. But I've been very busy on the channel. Covering everything, it's harder and harder to get time off to do, go out and play sometimes. Um, Let's see. You and Michael Dawson. Oh, okay. That's from Kimberly. I see that. All right. I call in the pain in the ass matter. That's our Lisa. Let's see who else here. Oh, okay. Oberheim. Brandon says to see Toto here in Sydney will set you back $200. Right. And it was Kid Rock. I think he said what started off is, I may be off by a buck or two, but he said around the 110 range winds up to be 179. So you're not You're even further up there, $200. And I don't know, how well the Australian buck does against America. Is that even more stingy there than it would be here in America? For me, if I'm going to pay $200 for somebody, I better have a decent seat. I just won't. That would get you in the back seat at a McCartney concert, where he looks about that big, right? But $200, man. No, see, that would be a $400 payout for me and Kimberly to go. That would have to be like a McCartney, but I don't want to go see him with his voice in disrepair. So there you go. What do you do? In 2022, this is Richard Mueller says, Ticketmaster made $16.2 billion. Thank you very much for that data. I appreciate that. And that's Ticketmaster, uh, Richard. Ticketmaster. What did Live Nation make? And where? Yeah, offshore accounts, things like that. Okay. Anyway, TJR says Dwayne, his last top 10 album. Okay, he's responding to something that was set up here by Dwayne. Kid Rock still relevant. Okay, Dwayne Chamberlain. Is Kid Rock still relevant? Was he ever? I've never been a major Kid Rock. He's done a couple of things that I've heard that he connected with somebody that I thought was okay. But I used to see his advertisements in Rolling Stone. I saw him self promoting from the beginning. He'd be in magazines. He'd promote his whole thing out of magazines. That's kind of how he got started. Isn't that how most of you guys remember him kind of getting? He's a success story, man. Self promoter, no doubt. But he says his last top 10, this is TJR responding, saying his last top 10 album was in 2015 and was outsold by the deluxe edition of Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, as it should have been. Let's see. TJR also says Kid Rock having hit records with sampled rock songs turned my stomach to a large degree. Anybody who used samples have turned my head and my stomach, as far as I'm concerned. TJR. That's just all there is. TJ, I'm sorry. Uh, let's see. Where else is here? Anybody else covering any of the stuff I've basically covered here? Dwayne Chamberlain, I'm going to miss Val Kilmer. Yes, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. Always enjoyed him. My favorite Val Kilmer role was Doc Holliday. I got to tell you. He was okay as Batman, but by that time I had lost interest in the franchise and its nipples. But and everybody is now showing interviews of him saying good things about Batman. That's bullshit. I remember him getting into trouble by saying all you have to do is lower your voice. It's not like you have to do a lot of acting. He cut down the role quite a bit while it was being released. He got into some hot water over that, which is fine with me. I like a little shit disturbing every once in a while. I've been known to do so. So why wouldn't he? But rest in peace, Val Kilmer, major star. I can think of at least six to probably eight or nine roles that would have been worthy of an Academy Award in his career. What's that, darling?
I'm your Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry. That's right. That's just my game. Love the. I think I have every single line uttered by Doc Holliday in that film, Committed to Memory, don't I,
Yep. Oh,
babe?
yeah.
uh, he's an educated man, darling.
Yeah, of course he is.
He reminds me of me. Now I know I hate him. All right. The last vestige of late boomers, John Patterson says, and Gen X entertainment is being quantified. It would be impossible for a new band now to sell records, open for a headliner, and get ready. You'll play these days. Those days are gone. John Patterson spot freaking on with this comment. This is why you see a lot of the newer acts relying on sounding exactly like the records because they think they got to compete with the showbiz type of acts, that you get with a lot of piped in music with hip hop, rap, and the pop scene in general. So they're competing against an inferior form of music, in my opinion. It's just my opinion, folks. Uh, in order to sell more albums and be able to charge more for their concerts and play in front of more people, and it never happens because they're not setting themselves aside, which is what rock and roll has always done. It was always it was always the boy your mama never saw you coming, right? Yeah, it was a little dangerous, down and nasty. We had our plethora of casualties, both by rock gods and fans alike. A lot of people didn't survive the turbulent 60s, and for a lot of different reasons. And many of them would survive for decades after, but die a relatively early death. It was alive. It was dangerous. It was uh, it was creation incarnate. When I look back at the best time in rock, and we've lost that. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some good bands out there, and I've said that. I've got like three or four bands that I'm kind of currently listening to that I like that are relatively new. I've talked about Rival Sons. I like Dorothy. I like well, less and less unless they get their act together. Greta Van Fleet, and of course, probably my favorite band out right now, new band, and I want to get them on vinyl here real soon. Of course, would be Dirty Honey. All right, so there is some great stuff happening out there, but not in mass enough, and they're not given the opportunity. Dirty Honey actually had to create and self present themselves to the world at large, much like Kid Rock did. But in it's decades later, and they did it, slightly different avenue, slightly different tactics, but it's all guerrilla warfare. It's all guerrilla tactics on making sales, things like that. Well known things that all musicians know. Where do you think they got the idea to sell you a t shirt of the band to begin with? Right? In many ways, a rock band is a traveling circus. And you've either got a real circus or you have a politically correct, less exciting, you've got, trampoline artists, but they're performing over a net, you know, at half the height. The elephants aren't as big. The clowns are nowhere near as funny, right? And then you have the big acts where, whoa, Ringling Brothers, top of the tops. Okay. So, I mean, and out of all of that lifestyle and everything, were artists, true artists, living, on the edge, Earl Smith, living on the edge, man. And out of it came greatness, sadness, like life in general. But it breathed, it was alive, and you wonder. Now all I hear is, and the heartbeat monitor going beep, 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 because that's the way I almost see rock and roll. Now, if indeed that's where we are, I'll still have plenty to talk about. It doesn't mean the end of my channel, because what rock and roll has created is worth talking about. And there are a trillion stories and a trillion different ways to tell those stories that could be entertaining and bringing it forward, right? Bringing the story of rock and roll forward. So it's not like I'm going to lose any sweat off the deal if the heyday has been done. But hope springs eternal. I would love to see a comeback, not a Mike Tyson comeback, but uh, like Balboa, coming back at a later time, and at least going the distance and slugging it out toe to toe with other styles of music. And if you're a fan of those other styles of music, more power to all of you.
Michael Chamberlain asked if you have listened to The Warning. He says, I love this band. Three sisters who play with an edge.
Why does that sound familiar?
The Warning, yeah.
The Warning.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm going to check them out. I may have checked them out. What style of music? What style of music was it, Kiki?
Um, well, he says it's three sisters who play with an edge.
Okay.
It's edgy, rough.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. I'll check them out. I'll
Yeah,
check them out after the stream tonight.
yeah.
Thanks for that. Clark Gregg, Michael Boswell says end of the road just before the pandemic was $95 for a arena seat. Yeah, yeah, and now what is it, and of course I don't know exactly which, how powerful or how popular of a band you were talking about, because you couldn't see even McCartney back then for 95, I'm sure, or Springsteen or any of the, big ticket items. But for, just a good rock, yeah, you might be right. Clark Gregg says I remember buying from the venue only. Now you have to buy online at a certain time when tickets go on sale. It sucked when I was working because tickets go on sale an hour before my break. Yeah, yeah. And you got to show up, huh? And, part of that would be if you had to show up, but then we're in a different world today. Excuse me, I understand that. We are in a different world today. It's not the same. It's a faster paced world, and standing in line to go see to get tickets is time consuming. It'd be nice if you could just get it online, have them send it to you, show up, right? But where the online aspect goes in, comes corruption, right along with it. So what do you do, Clark? He says, Clark goes on to say, I paid $7 for Queen and Thin Lizzy on the same night, 1979. That probably was close. Might have been $12 by the time I saw Queen in late '79, but it was at a theater in Oakland. Very nice theater, very nice, and extremely up close seats. I really had a choice spot the second time I saw them. So if this was like standing room crowd type of thing and stuff like that, oh, don't you? Oh, those days, man. You could actually. We talked about this earlier. You could actually plan and go. When I was a teenager, I'd say 3 or 4 concerts a week, right? And as I got into my 20s, well into my 30s, I would go. I probably dropped down to about one a month. You know, as I got to working and I had a family and all of that, but it wasn't uncommon to hit. I at least 10 to 12 shows a week, right? And then as each decade ensued, I mean that would almost be cut in half. And so. And a lot of the reasoning behind that wasn't just getting older, finding it more difficult to you know deal with the insanity of a live concert and everything, but it's also how involved you had to be able to do it, what time you could get off, and of course the price, right? Okay, so let me grab my keys here. I just want to make sure. Oh yeah, okay. So this is in response, James Redding. Where's your initial response? Uh, James Redding, I don't see your initial response. It seems like you responded, but we can get the idea here. James Redding, the problem is that bots buy them first, and that is what is measured. Actual humans buy them from the after sellers, which is not measured. Exactly. And on top of that, more money is made. None of the extra money goes to the artist, right? Which Ticketmaster is always saying, we do this for the artist. They don't do shit for the artist. Artist lets them know what they want to make. Ticketmaster decides whether they want to do business with them, right? Nobody says no to Paul McCartney or Bruce. There's certain AAA acts out there that Ticketmaster will bend the knee to, but they will not give up one red cent that they make off of them, because that's the reason for their existence, is to drain us of every damn cent they can. All right. Let's see what else. Okay. Helene Spalding, yes. Ticketmaster lies if it says it allows sellers to set resale prices. They don't. I could not resell for less than I paid. And finally, they refused to allow. And that's what I understood to be the truth too, Helene. But what I've wound up reading is that you can increase the sales, or at least maybe it's based on the only reason that made any sense to me, but I read it straight from you. Okay. The actual stuff it said about this, and it might be in conjunction with the dynamic pricing, hoisting it up rather than it being the bubble that increases later dynamic pricing. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. But I did a lot of research on this. The hidden costs. I mean, when you get everything, a Ticketmaster's making more than the artist. All right, way more, way more. And they're the ones that have got the good grift going here. Helene says, "Did you ever check out Black Country Communion? I know I've still got to." She said that to Wayne. I still have to check them out. That was just not too long ago. Was it you that recommended it to me, Helene? Country.
Yeah, she did.
It was her,
Yeah.
right? I still haven't gotten a chance for that. TJR says I saw Rival Sons opening for Black Sabbath in 2016 and embarrassed Ozzy. Yeah, I hear they're pretty hot, you know. And Black Sabbath, I don't know how well they were playing during that era, that final era with them. James Redding, we have so much music from the past to keep us entertained. Yes, we do. I think I brought that up on my last stream. We've got tens of thousands of albums, hundreds of thousands of songs. There's no way for any one person to really listen and do a deep dive on every single rock song album that exists. It's impossible. Not a deep dive. I know there's a lot of collectors who collect vinyl or CDs or use the streaming apps to get even more information and to listen to more people. But how deep of a dive can you go into? See, I don't try to be an expert on every band. I'm willing to learn, but I do a deep dive on the bands I love. I have a lot more information about them and everything. And as the channel goes on, I expect to be educated by you folks. I expect to become a fan any day now of another band that I never really gave any credit for. Like I said, I'm reassessing right now King Crimson, and I'm liking what I'm hearing. But I haven't had that sit down luxury. I got to get them on LP, and then I will do that. All right, I will definitely do that. Let's see. Helen also says, "Wonder if Peter Gramp, were he around now, could do anything against these monsters." I don't think so. Yeah, yeah. I think the day of the renegade manager, even the most powerful managers, uh, have feeler people that go out to meet feeler people when their group decide to tour, and they all talk about the possibilities and report back to camp. The managers are all in on staying in the good graces with Ticketmaster and Live Nation. I can tell you that. Be insane not to be, right? And so, how much of a manager to the band does that make you? Right? We've talked about Irving Azoff, who used to be, still does, I guess. He was the manager of the Eagles. And back in the day, I thought he was a fantastic manager. He was loyal to that band. He got them good deals. He worked his ass off, that little Dickens, right? But then the more corporate it got, and they got back together, and that whole concert of them getting back together, they made millions upon millions on that, just on DVD sales and the album version of it, and the tickets for it. And now the Eagles were back. The industry had changed since they were gone, and look how they sucked up to the new machine. It wasn't long before when Don Felder's going, where's the money going? That was one of his major concerns. What he smelled a rat. Deals were being made. Inequities were existing as far as payouts to the band. He wanted to know about it. And what did that little worm Irving do? He sided with, uh, Don and what's his name? Yeah, I'm thinking about Glenn Fry. All right, and took it against them. Then he used his finagling, from what I can tell, to kind of lay down the law to uh, Joe Walsh and Jimmy Timothy B. Schmidt, because all of a sudden Joe Walsh, who had to be closer to Don Felder than anybody in the band, Don Felder can't get a ring. I mean, Don Felder took that man to, uh, you know, to get sober. I mean, he was that close. They were very close at one point. But here's what money does, and here's what profit does. Now, these are people who have to answer to their fans, and to the more discerning fans, they don't get away with it. But fans in general, they just read the byline and, oh, I love Joe Walsh, and I do. I'm a major fan. I've seen him live twice. I love him. I think he's great, right? A major pioneer in rock. He should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the James Gang and for his solo career, but he's not recognized as that. He's recognized for what? Being in the Eagles when he's never been in the Eagles. So, all right, I know. Olean's going, we've heard this story before. Michael, let's get on up. Now, I'm going to pull off from some of the comments right now, and I want to get on over here to kind of the second portion, half of tonight's stream. All right, so where are we at here? There you go. And all I have to do is click a magic button, and I'll be right with you, folks. Did I get the wrong one here? Okay. Take this to. Wow. Oh, there it is. We're good. We're good. So along with all of this, okay, so we see how locked down the live concert scene is. And I want you to keep in mind that we talked about new bands can't get a grip, right? Because this is going to lead into what I'm talking about. And the reason being is that they don't sound exciting, right? Compared to the low register boom boom that a lot of the younger audience have been trained to listen to and encouraged to listen to, and unfairly encouraged to listen to. And rock has lost its place, and of course, it's rock. The number one culprit there is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, this is the part two to my stream on Sunday, and I said that we were talking about people who have stood up. I talked about people who have stood up to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've stood up to bands who have laid claim to be them when they're not. Artists who have taken a stand on many, many different things, right? Well, tonight I wanted to go over a list of 25 rock stars or rock artists, bands that have criticized the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, as I go through this list, I have to kind of go through it at a pace here. Otherwise, I'm going to miss a couple of what they said because some of them are heroes and some of them are really, truly zeros. You know, the kind of guy that says the right thing, he might say something kind of dramatic and revolutionary in the moment because he feels like he's got the crowd. He's got a sense of the crowd. And if he didn't say this, nobody would notice him anyway. Right. And a lot of these artists are people that have been, ignored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And this has been their response. And some of them, well, you'll get what I'm talking about. Now, the first level up, the first band mentioned on this list was the Pickles, the Sex Pickles, of course, the Sex Pistols. And it says here Sex Pistols made their anti Hall of Fame feelings clear in an open letter published before their 2006 induction, which they did not attend. Next to the Sex Pistols, rock and roll, and that Hall of Fame. This is what. Who was this? Which one of them said this? Uh, Good Lord. Well, I guess they just put this out as a band statement. Next to the Sex Pistols, Rock and Roll Hall of Rock and Roll and that Hall of Fame is a piss stain. We're not coming. They went on to lambast the fees they were allegedly asked to pay to attend the ceremony, quote, saying, fame at $25,000 if we paid for a table, or $15,000 to squeak up in the gallery, goes to a nonprofit organization selling us a load of old famous. Isn't that something? I cannot even begin to believe that. Now I'm wondering why I'm seeing a lot of glare in the picture tonight. I'm not going to worry about it. Must be something to do with the lighting here. See, I had some sunlight coming in when I first started. Next up, Iron Maiden's Bruce Dickinson. It's worse than horrible. It's vulgar, says he, right? It says few rock stars have been so outspoken about their hatred of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as Iron Maiden Bruce Dickinson. I actually think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is an utter and complete load of bollocks, to be honest with you. It's run by a bunch of sanctimonious, bloody Americans who wouldn't know rock and roll if it hit them in the face. They need to stop taking Prozac and start drinking more fucking beer. Okay? Oh, brother. I love it. The bloody Americans thing. All right. Come on, brother. Rock and roll was invented in America. Okay, but I hear the angst. I do. Joan Jett, before her 2015 induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Joan Jett took exception to the Institute's lack of female representation, which is probably true. There should be more women in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in rock. She told Billboard, they're out there. They just don't get the notice that the pop girls do. And that's the truth. And that's been true for a good 20 years now. Joan, sorry to tell you, go to any city and there's an all girl rock band. It's just a matter of society wanting to hear that kind of music. Although more women have been inducted in recent years, as of 2023, she says men still make up more than 90% of the Fame's roster. Now, should it be at 90%? I don't think it should be at 90%. I think it should be a more even keel. But you're going to, if it was 50%, that'd be ludicrous. The first years of rock and roll were pretty much ruled by, classic rock anyway, white males, for the vast, you'd get a Jimi Hendrix who'd kind of sink in there, or some of the black soul based bands that kind of got trippy and psychedelic around the same time that kind of made a good mesh, right? But in the beginning, there was a lot of male um, artists because not a lot of there just wasn't a lot of female bands. They came a little later, right? But but she doesn't bring up that a lot of the females that she now recognizes aren't even rock and roll. Dolly Parton isn't rock and roll, you know. Missy Elliott isn't rock and roll, and neither is Mariah Carey, and they're trying to get her in right now, right? That doesn't even the score. That warps the whole picture, folks, right? Chrissy Hine, which I've covered in past videos, she's a hero of mine. I love her whole attitude. 18 years after her 2005 induction, Pretenders leader Chrissy Hines expressed regret over accepting the honor, explaining that she did so to avoid upsetting her parents, right? She felt peer pressure to be there, and she wishes these days that she had never done that. She said, I don't even want to be associated with it. It's just more establishment backslapping. I got in a band, so I didn't have to be part of that. Right freaking on. Another person was War, not person, but a band, War. And dig their complaint. And I think this makes a lot of sense to me. In 2011, War founder Howard Scott expressed frustration that his band was once again passed over for the induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and was especially upset that the Beastie Boys, who sampled War's Lowrider on 1986 Slow Ride, got in before they did. Yeah, they stole their way into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They were a newer band, more exciting, right? Of course, had the right connections with that nominating committee. So there's no chance that War would have gotten in at that time. I don't know if they've ever gotten in since. I haven't kept up on War. I loved War. I actually bought a couple albums from them. I wasn't a major soul or rhythm and blues based black artist kind of guy. I kind of liked, the rock bands, the Beatles, Black Sabbath, that was my thing. But I bought a couple albums by them. Always loved their hits on the radio, and they are phenomenal. All right. And yet, look who got in before them. Kirk Hammett. Um, he said, although Metallica was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2009, guitarist Kirk Hammett expressed frustration over the continued exclusion of Motorhead and Thin Lizzy. Okay, now, and I do respect him for taking the power that that throne kind of gives you and to speak out for other bands that have been overlooked. So I like that. I really think, he goes on to say, I really think that when things like that happen, it might be a generational thing. Now, dig what he says here, where maybe some of the older people just don't get it. They just don't fucking get it. They don't see the range of influence and the impact and inspiration that certain bands had. He also worried that the group's relatively lack of commercial success may factor too heavily into the rock and roll voting process. Maybe, and here's where he really hits it. Maybe they just didn't sell enough fucking albums. Sometimes it feels like you have to sell a certain amount of albums before they would even consider you, which is, I think, a big piece of shit too. Quote. All right. So, and there is no doubt Metallica got on the radar with their Black album. Everybody, even grandmas were buying that album, right? Made them more palatable and everything. And all of a sudden, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a lot of heavy metal based bands that could be there as well as Metallica. Metallica is well deserving. Now, Elton John, I don't know what I'm going to do with Elton these days. I used to be such a major fan. My wife still is. Elton John says that he's upset that Donna Summers isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he thinks it's a total disgrace. When was the last time Donna Summers was considered rock and roll? Man, she's disco. She's disco. And disco did nothing but put a bunch of rock and rollers out of business, as far as I'm concerned, including yours truly. I was back playing bars, and they ripped off that dance floor, or rip off the stage where the band would set up, put in a dance floor, and then put one of those revolving balls in there and pipe in the music. Uh, Nobody playing live at all. Couldn't make a fucking living at the time, right? So I'm not a big disco fan. Not that there aren't some great disco records. The whole thing wasn't messed up, just 80% of it. Greg Kinn, he says, He just passed away too. I think he was one of the individuals who passed away on my video that I did at the beginning of the years of people who passed away in 2024. So we just lost him not long
Oh, you
ago.
got a super thanks from Michael Boswell.
Oh, really? Okay, let me grab back where I was, and I can take a moment to get back to you folks here. Let's see. Now stop that. What do we have? Oh, Michael, thank you so much. Now, I'm glad you gave it $2 because I was saying earlier, man, $2. I'm just as thankful for that. I would have extended this normally 1 hour stream with just $2. Every $2 helps. It helps keep the channel floating. Let's see. Donna Summer is in. He says, I wasn't aware of that. Donna Summers made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What do you guys think of that? I didn't know that. Don, Donna Summers. All right, now first of all, I got to tell you, I like Donna
I
Summers.
love Donna so
Yeah,
much.
you know, yeah, she looked good. You know, I like the groove of the song. She's one of the disco people I kind of liked, but she's disco. She's not rock and roll. I say, hey,
Stuff, baby, tonight.
I didn't know Royce was in the house.
Royce is here.
Yeah, it's good to see you. How you doing, Royce? We're kind of doing a part two on our stream tonight. Maybe he's been in for a while because see, when I go through my notes, I have to kind of leave the channel and get over there and be able to read what I've been talking about. But oh, and Royce, good. I'm glad you're here, brother. As a matter of fact, I want all of you to take a moment and watch my fireplace. I'll be right back. I got something to share with you. All right, I'll be right back, folks.
Royce says he's doing well, Michael.
Royce is doing well. That's good to hear, man. I've just got to leave the room here, brother. I'll be right back in a moment's notice here. Okay. Walking out to the other room, one foot in front of the other, just kind of humming and hawing. I'm miles away from the studio now, but I'm like the Flash. I can be back in a flash, folks. All right. So here's the reason why I took myself off of the screen is I just received this from Royce. You wonderful friend, you buddy pal. First of all, he got me a copy of Back in Black, which was going to be the very first album I wanted to get by ACDC on vinyl, right? So thank you so much, Royce. I just received this. Royce knows I received these, but here and that would have been if he had just sent that, I would have got. Oh wow, what a great gift, right? But he sent me one of my favorite albums in rock, one of rock's greatest albums, one of rock's greatest double albums, bar none. And of course, I'm talking about Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. I think it's called Layla and how many other love songs? Other love, assorted love songs. Derek and the Dominoes. All right. This album is a masterpiece, as is Back in Black, but for totally different reasons, folks. Now that I have this, I've been wanting to do a video that kind of covers the history of this and what the songs are, doing a review on it, the whole thing like I used to do a lot more of. And this album, Royce, is going to be part of the research for that up and coming video. So thank you very much. All right. And thank you so much, Michael, for that wonderful super thanks. You are awesome. Now, I did want to get back to some of these other rockers and what they have to say, because you know what? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even to these people who uh, go to the point and say things about them, watch what some of how their interactions are later after they make these statements. As a matter of fact, let's see. Uh, we were talking about Greg Kim. He says, I have issues with whoever is in the induction committee for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't understand where they're coming from. I say, throw the bums out and let's start all over again. We can only carry on the fight for you, Greg. That's all I can say. And thank you for your service. Rest in peace, brother. But yes, I've how many times have I said that on this channel? I think the thing needs to be totally gutted and redone at this point. There's so many mistakes that, it's become a thorough embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. Ted Nugent says, uh, it says Ted Nugent may have the record for making the most public attacks on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is it or is it not vulgar, he says, dishonest, and obscene that Grandmaster Flash, Patti Smith, and ABBA are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Ted fucking Nugent isn't? I blew that line. I mean, think about that, right? Now, I'm not real crazy about people who talk to them, talk about themselves in the third person. You know, Michael Nolan's not that kind of guy. But no, seriously, uh, I mean, whether you like the guy or not, he has his fans, but he is a kick-ass guitarist. He's done some great recordings. Whether you like his politics, his personal, statements about life or not, he certainly would belong in the freaking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's a major player way before ABBA. I love ABBA, but I'm not. I wouldn't. They're one of those. I don't know if that was the worst mistake the hall had ever made. Even then, I kind of want to go, no, not here. And I like ABBA music. I used to love those old things they did on Saturday Night Live, and Dan Aykroyd would go, "Oh, well, let me get my ABBA tapes." Those little bits he did with Belushi and all the time. I used to just crack up on that because secretly I liked ABBA at that time, and nobody at the time ABBA was out. If you were a musician, you didn't really go screaming to the rafters that you liked them. You know, they were kind of considered, kind of pre-made, regurgitated pop music kind of thing. But I loved them. I loved them. Now, Kiss. All right, Kiss. You know what? The best thing to do is just read this as a story here, folks. All right. Um, Most bands that criticize the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, their tune change their tune once they get voted in. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier, right? It says, but Kiss pulled off the nifty trifecta of opening feuding with the organization before, during, and after their 2014 induction. It's become a joke, Gene Simmons said of the Hall back in 2012, right? We've been thinking about it, and the answer is simply we'll just buy it and fire everybody. All right? Bold statement, Gene. Bold statement. Angered by the Rock and Roll's decision to honor only the band's original lineup, which I agree with, by the way, Kiss refused to perform at the ceremony. Oh, it's the Billion Dollar Babies Club strikes once again. Okay, so they got their feelings hurt and they just wouldn't perform. And Paul Stanley took a shot at the voting committee during his acceptance speech. Here we are, basically inducted for the same things that we were kept out for. After the ceremony, he kept up the attack, accusing the organizers of poor communication. Our treatment at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame confirmed my worst suspicions. All right. Winner and the rest are spineless weasels. Well, I agree with that last statement he made, but it's interesting. They did show up. It was important to them, you know, but at least they bit back a bit, right? They bit back a bit. But some of these people didn't bite back a whole lot. Deep Purple, before his band's 2016 induction, Deep Purple singer, we'll be talking about Ian here a little later in part three, some unfiltered thoughts about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame voters. I have no respect for them. To me, those people are bloody, arrogant, and rude. I've heard that somebody on their committee dismissed us as one hit wonders. Well, that could color your thoughts on that. the committee, couldn't it? I couldn't figure out whether that hit was Hush or Kentucky Woman, Black Knight, excuse me, Strange Kind of Woman, Child in Time, Perfect Strangers, Knocking at Your Back Door, or perhaps even Smoke on the Water, right? So he didn't like that. Ian, I'm getting more and more respect for him. You know, I always kind of took Richie Blackmore. So well, he's my what fourth favorite guitarist of all time. He's one of my top guitarists, and I like Ian Gillan as a vocalist. But I also like when Dave Coverdale was in there. Didn't miss Ian too much, even though Ian is probably the better singer. There's a whole debate for you, right? Def Leppard. Um, Def Leppard's Joe Elliott described the Hall voters. Now, he's talking about the nominating committee, right? Or well, I think the nominating committee even gets involved in the voters, and then it goes to a wider base. So my bad there. Boardroom of faceless tuxedo wearing morons. His band expressed their willingness to participate in the ceremony if inducted. During the same interview, their singer was less sure. Is it going to pay my mortgage? Is it going to put my kids through school? Am I going to sleep better at night? I don't give a flying rat's ass about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. However, after an increased emphasis on fan voting helped the group get inducted in 2019, Joe Elliott changed his mind and he says this: I think it's a nice badge of honor. It was something that we weren't overly concerned about until the fan vote thing came, because became a major part of it. The people that really matter to every band are the audience, which is a thank you to the audience and an acceptance of what he didn't give a, what was it he said, a rat's ass about. But once given, see, once given, it's a whole different thing. Uh, Now, this is a good point to bring up, that I was thinking about this, because, as a matter of fact, I'm going to skip down to his comment here, because I used this comment in one of my older videos when I was covering Paul Rogers, his Midnight Rose album. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it after you've seen this stream, where I cover and review the album. And I also covered right around that time him. Why isn't he in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Of course, it looks like Bad Company may indeed make it this year. I haven't been keeping up with the voting in the last couple of weeks. Maybe one or two of you can let me know where they stood. It's the top five vote getters from this aspect that will go into the final tank to be analyzed. And they were number four when I last looked. I don't know if they're still in the top five or not, but it was looking good last time I checked. And in the past, when they first created the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ahmet Ertegun approached him. Ahmet was part of that. Like I said, I like the idea of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and its first few years, it was golden. Did right. I didn't always agree with who got inducted first and all of that. But the first years were decent, but the cracks were already there, because every building will stand or fall by the foundation it's built on. And there were already cracks in the foundation right at the beginning. But he talks about Ahmet Ertegun. Let's see. He said during a 2023 interview, which is the one I had covered on that video, Paul Rogers revealed that he had turned down an offer to join the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in an unspecified role. So they wanted to give him even, uh, voting power, I would imagine. They don't talk about what the specific role is, but they were having him join. And of course, if he had done that, Bad Company would have been one of the very first bands in there right after they were old enough, had been around long enough to meet that requirement, right? Um, and he said years and years ago, this happened. And he said that Ahmet said to me, Paul, we're making this museum of rock and roll. Do you guys want to be a part of it? The singer turned down the offer, declaring, I don't think rock and roll belongs in a museum. He went on to explain that he turned down a couple of more invitations, and I covered that. It doesn't affect my daily life. It doesn't affect what I do in any way at all. And yet they are being nominated into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, what does this mean, folks? Think about that. What does this mean? I mean, he is clearly on separate occasions says this doesn't mean crap to him. Will he just not show up? Will this be just like Simon Kirk showing up, accepting for the band? I don't know at this point. Or will he change his mind? Because you know what, folks? It's all the proof is always in the pudding. You know, it's always in the make of the man, right? And you can talk big like Kiss and then suck up later, right? Or who did we just get through talking about right after them? You know, and a lot of these people do. I mean, that's just plain and simple. Let's take a look at this. Foreigner. Okay, now we've talked about Foreigner. Foreigner finally made it last year, but they were being kept out time and time again. Matter of fact, while they were still out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, folks, I would do videos kind of cutting Foreigner down for the band that they are, right? As I have many times. And then I'd make videos on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and complain that Foreigner isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that's because I think the original Foreigner, the Foreigner that made all those wonderful albums, belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the second they were involved. Although, like Kiss, I don't think that any of the new members that weren't there to make the original music should be included. You know, but what did they decide on that? I don't even remember last year. Did all of them get it, or just key members? Maybe somebody in the comments look for an answer for that, babe. Would you?
What's that?
Whether Foreigner did Kelly Hansen get inducted along with the original members? You know, all the new Jeff Pilson, all those new guys, along with Mick Jones and all of that. Let me know if somebody in the comment says anything. I'd like to know. I'll bring it up.
Okay.
Ah, so original Foreigner singer Lou Gramm says he knows what's keeping his band out of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's personal. It's a personal vendetta between the gentleman who owns the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Jan Winter, and the Foreigner guitarist, Mick Jones. He declared in 2023, it's very juvenile, the whole thing, and I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's going to stay that way. I think we're being made an example of. This was the year before they were nominated and they actually got in, right? They cite as one of their criteria as influence. Well, how many people have picked up a guitar and tried to learn Cold as Ice or Hot Blooded or sing I Want to Know What Love Is in a karaoke bar? The band has sold 80 million plus records, and that's real records, not streams or downloads. That is the definition of influence. And I agree with Lou Gramm when he says that. And it's important to bring out here how did they get in a year after he made that statement? It's nothing that Mick Jones did, it's nothing that Lou Gramm did. It was what Jan Winter did. Yeah, babe.
TJR says Kelly Hansen didn't get inducted, just the original lineup and Rick Willis.
Thank you, TJR. Thank you. That's good news. I'm glad. I didn't cover it after they got in, or I've forgotten since I was covering that. That was years and
The
years and
original
years ago.
7 were inducted.
What's that?
The original 7 were inducted, Michael Boswell says.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Okay, great. See, this is why I like to cover this kind of stuff on a live stream. All right. This kind of stuff is perfect for a live stream because I can give you a bit of information. Maybe you've been reading an article here, or somebody remembers what was said 2 years ago by one of their favorite people. And somehow we come to a truth here, right? So I was talking about the definition of influence. Good Lord, that is exactly what it was. But here's the deal: the only thing that changed from him making that statement in 2023 and 2024 when they got in was the fact that Jan Winter opened his mouth. And he made statements that black artists in rock and women artists in rock weren't very eloquent. And that's the reason why he didn't include them in his book that featured predominantly white rock, male white rockers, right? Now, I think personally, he shouldn't have said damn thing and just said, I covered who I wanted to cover. It's none of your freaking business. But I guess that's too much for him to contemplate because he's so busy contemplating his own navel, right? That he had to come up with something he thought sounded eloquent, and it proves that he was not only a racist, but a misogynist. And ever since he made that statement, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kicked his ass out, first of all, right? And they're distancing themselves from that statement. They had to get Foreigner in. That's the only freaking reason Foreigner ever got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If he had kept his mouth shut, they would have never made it, or not as long as he was alive. Because guess what? Even though they've distanced themselves from Jan's influence is still there because, his own personal thoughts and things went in who he chose. He chose people who knew who would back up the majority of what he agreed is rock and roll and how that organization should be run. And that includes people he put into the nominating committee, to the chairman of the board, to the chairman of the board that he relays. When he stepped down, he made John Sykes the chairman of the board and everything else. And so this is just the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame trying to get off the hot seat with Foreigner. And it may be a little bit with Bad Company too, because there's been, as I've covered, some bad blood between, well, Paul Roger. It's mainly Paul Rogers' stand on all of what it really represents to him. Now we'll see if he's a man of his word. That it just doesn't matter to him, because if it really truly doesn't matter, I can't see much of a reason why he would show up to accept the nomination unless he, But I'm willing to hear it. He's a major hero of mine. Even if he shows up, I'm not going to lambast him too much, but I'll probably bring up a couple of times in the future that he didn't hold true to his word, which I think all of these guys should. Let me check in with a couple of folks here. It's been a while. I got to get back over here. And right now, I'm going to start from the latest and work back this time. Let's see. Angela. Oh, she's talking to Kate. Uh, let's see. Jorge Pita. That was Steve Miller's rant on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's on that list as well, Jorge. You know, he said it would have cost. Was he the one that? No, that was the Sex Pistols. Said it was 25,000 when he did it. It was $10,000 a seat and less to get like more distant relatives in the back seats and everything, but thousands and thousands of dollars. And I even brought him up on my last stream. He took them to task. He said that they were treated like second class citizens. He said that they were hustled and bustled around, and that the main table was just a bunch of fat rich bastards, and I brought up on my last stream, hey, the whole thing was to honor him. He's the one that made the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All the rest of you fat bastards could go to hell in a handbasket, as far as I'm concerned. And he stood up to him. So good point. Let's see. And you're still talking to Caitlin. Doc Ock or Doc Doc Ock, Doc Insomnia. Originally, they wanted to cast John Travolta as Jim Morrison in The Doors for the movie. Ah, I didn't know that. Uh, yeah, he's got the same kind of face that would have worked for Jim Morrison. I don't know. I don't know. Uh, I'm not a major fan of the movie. Uh, I thought it crawled up its own ass a little bit. It's definitely worth a view, but uh, it's a film with an agenda, and the acting is fine. I mean, Val Kilmer is wonderful in it, and the guy that played oh God, I'm gonna have trouble. Ray Manzarek. is a great actor. I've always liked him as well. I'm not thinking of his name. Wasn't he the guy that was in the original Dune? Who is that guy? Wound up on some of the Marvel TV shows recently too. Always liked what he did. Um, that one with Dennis Hopper. I think I'm thinking of the same actor there. Um, let's see, what was that called? Blue Velvet. Yeah. Deuces Wild. I'm sorry to hear. Okay, this is personal stuff. Uh, Okay, Angela here. I'm in the middle of reading a book about the Allman Brothers Band. So far, really enjoying it. Yeah, let me know if which book it is. I'll take a look at it. I'd be interested in reading that. Jorge Peter again, be in it. Unlike sports, Hall of Fame, where there are plenty of statistics. Yeah, now this is a good point to gauge somebody's qualifications. That's why Steve Miller's Rock and Roll Hall of Fame rant was so interesting. Yeah, and the whole idea of what to gauge qualifications, some of you out there agree that some of these rap artists and hip hop artists are connected enough to rock and roll that they should get it, and that I should shut my mouth and quit bitching about it. And eventually we'll get to your favorite band one of these years after you pass away, Michael. And all I can say to that is that, yeah, except that what you do is you weaken the art form. It's no longer identifiable. You're watching John Sykes redefine rock and roll with his once a year statements every year, to the point that if you, as a rap or hip hop artist, were influenced by an artist, say from the 60s, 70s, 80s, wherever, right, whose hits and or who got airplay right next to uh, what you would consider to be a rock band, then you in turn have been influenced by rock and roll, and therefore you have some rock and roll blood in you. Bull freaking shit. What a bunch of nonsense that is, right? Okay. Remember all those records they had? Dun, 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 dun. They had all of the classics, done to a rock beat and everything, right? You know, does that make Mozart or Beethoven or Tchaikovsky or Vivaldi rock artists? Because maybe Deep Purple, kind of took some ideas from them. Other artists like Yes would take some classical ideas. Bullshit, bullshit. I mean, a lot of people had hits back in those days, if you remember. I mean, good Lord, Sammy Davis Jr., The Candy Man. God, I hated that song. And it was just played over and over and over. And then right after it would play, you'd hear Stairway to Heaven, right? Right next to it. So that makes Sammy Davis Jr. a rock icon, right? Engelbert Humperdincker, the stinker. Please release me. Let me. Oh God! Someone give me an onion, quick. I need to cry. Uh, doesn't mean and that song stopped the Beatles' "Strawberry Fields Forever" and "Penny Lane" from hitting number one. It only hit number two in England because of Engelbert's hit of a song that Eddie Albert did better, right? So that makes him rock and roll, you know. Now Tom, who's the other guy that was hot during that? Tom Jones, he can rock, but his career wasn't rock and roll for the most part. But as he got older, he can rock. I'd have less of a problem with him than some of the other people. But who do we put in next? A postmortem request for Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. How about Scott Joplin? Let's put him in there, right? Because it's all a mishmash, and that's what they want. That's what they want. Because guess what? If you get everything in there, then they don't care because they got their lock on the money. They're going to make their money. They're going to make their deals and everything else, and everybody else on that nominating committee. Don't tell me they're not getting sweetheart deals off to the side every once in a while. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire every single time I've found in my life. Deuces Wild, speaking of 65, on a unrelated non-music note, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. Okay, yes, and we've already spoke about that, and it's worth rereading. Seriously, a great actor, and we're going to miss him. Let's see. What else do we have here? Deuces Wild. Pete Pardo, Sea of Tranquility, expresses his strong distaste for the Hall of Fame. It's so sad what they are doing, how they are shafting bands like Bad Company. And it has been a shaft if they do make it, thank God, at one time. But then whose company do they share with? Wow, they're right up there with Missy Elliott, and LL Cool J, right? Yay, verily, yay. You know, the lime's in the coconut. Drink it all up, man. It's all in the Kool Aid, right? Gets down to that. It's all in the Kool Aid. What are you willing to drink? What are you willing to believe? Because if this current incarnation of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'll eat my left bunion. All right? Bullshit. Let's see. Here it says, I hope Bad Company will get inducted, TJ, at TJR's Classic Rock. I do too. Although it's meaning less and less, isn't it? Right? Deuces Wild, Glenn Hughes. I would argue Sword over Coverdale. Actually, I think he's a better singer than Coverdale. So I agree with you, Deuces Wild. Absolutely. Oh God, and that's why my second favorite incarnation of Deep Purple would be Mark III, right? When he's in there with David Coverdale, Byrne, and taking portions of entire, you know, lead vocals on the album, and then being that good of a bass player. He didn't even want to be a bass player. That wasn't his interest. He wanted to be a singer. And man, I think and I've watched a lot of his latest shows, on YouTube whenever I can find him live. Sounds pretty good to me. What do you guys think? Glenn Hughes, major bass player and sometimes lead vocalist for Deep Purple, right around the time, for the most part, with David Coverdale after Ian Gillan left the band, and along with who was it? Roger Glover. Yeah, let's see. You've got Roger Glover, right? Bass. I'm not getting Ian Pace. Yeah, all right. He left the band. Glenn Hughes came in, and Byrne is great. I just got Byrne too. All right, and I will be doing uh, either tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to shoot part three just in time for it to be available for this once a week for my channel members. Part three of going through my album and making remarks on the different aspects to listen to music and everything. It's all kind of connected, and we were right at the point where we get into what I've got from Deep Purple and all of that. We're into the second section of my record collection, and then we'll go on from there. Right, but I just got that album. Love that album. I still the one I want to get. I've got Come Taste the Band. I've got their new album, of course, plus one. I of course have Machine Head, and do I have anything else by them? But I want to get. I'm I really want to get Stormbringer because I like to listen to Burn, Stormbringer, and Come Taste the Band kind of in a row. I kind of enjoy that sub period in Deep Purple. All right, so let's see. What else do we have here? I love the Graham Bonnet and Joe Elliott era of Rainbow. Never gets the respect that it's due. Deuces Wild once again. Joseph Blue, James, plus one, Barbara Streisand is estimated to have sold over 150 million records worldwide. I wouldn't refute that at all. She was a huge star, definitely. Absolutely huge star. All right, folks. So we've been going for 2 hours now. And I said I'd either keep going or I'm going to take a short break. But you guys bought the second stream. I'm going to go ahead and take a short break here. And let's see, it's 7:05 now. Let's see. I'm going to start streaming at 7:30. I want to, just take a break, get my mindset, get my notes reconfigured, so I don't have to float here and go and ha to get to the next portion. I want to thank each and every one of you that gave those thumbs, those super thanks. But you know what? the the head of the army, the bottom line of the army, the front line of any army is those of you who even bothered to view my videos. I am so thankful for you folks. All right. Not everybody can financially support anybody these days, right? And that is wonderful when I get that. But I've always been, first of all, grateful for the views I get. And secondly, grateful for the thumbs up I get from you folks. Because then that pushes, the video, including the live stream later on when people rewatch it, it pushes it to a larger audience. The channel grows, right? Those people might watch some of the commercials. I might make a buck or two even by there. So you, even by not being able to help out financially, you support this channel financially, vi- vicariously, right? And so I'm always appreciative of that. And the whole idea of the channel is basically this. I absolutely adore classic rock. It played a major portion of my life. It's the soundtrack of my life. It's been my profession in my life, right? And it is my art that I profess to create with personally as an artist myself. And what this channel is designed to do is to give that the highlight and to defend it when it needs defending. And a lot of you folks are absolutely being right there for me, with me, with a lot of similar uh, uh, remarks regarding some of the things that are hurting rock and roll. And for those of you who don't agree with me or have another take, this is the forum. In the comments, bring it out. I don't believe in one side ruling it all. There should always be a dialogue in any grouping of human beings. That's why I call this thing here the tribe. I always say hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you'll be notified of all my future videos. And then I usually sign off with we are the tribe. And the tribe is a moving mentality, right? I'll go through a season where I'll be talking on a subject a lot of you will agree on. Then I'll hit something that a lot of you don't agree on. And but what it does is by bringing those subjects up, it gives you a dialogue. It gives you a soapbox right here in the comments. So I want to hear from you in the comments. It may be a day, about 24 hours before I get back to you. I'm finding it harder now that I'm streaming, doing regular videos, trying to get a short out here and there, doing my latest poll, and I may cover some of the comments on my latest poll. We may start that one off like that when I get back up here. So thank you so much for your support, however you did that. And please consider joining me in about a half an hour, looks like in about 22 minutes. All right, at 7:30. I've got to reset everything and I'll have it ready for you to click. All right, Michael Noland, this is the Tribal Forum, forum number 16, forum 17 to occur momentarily. All right, folks, I'll see you in about a half hour.